Yo, book nerds, I finished reading It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Now, this is my first book by Colleen Hoover that I've ever read. I feel like I'm the last person to jump on this bandwagon, and now, like, she was so big a few years ago, and now it seems like I don't hear as many people talk about her, but I really enjoyed this book. Enjoyed feels like the wrong word, but like, I really am glad that I read this. It was so bingeable. I could not put this book down. I finished it so quickly. It was an emotional kind of roller coaster, but I really am glad that I picked this up. So this story, if you don't know, it's a duology. So this is the first book, and you should start with this one. But this book follows Lily, and she's in her 20s, and she has met this guy named Ryle, and, you know, they hit it off, and she falls for him, and, you know, their relationship's going well. But Lily has a love from high school named Atlas, and she was head over heels for this boy, and when they separate in high school, like, she never fully got over him, and he suddenly shows back up in her life when she is in love with Ryle. And so, you know, love triangle. Who's she gonna end up with? What's gonna happen? That's the story. That's the story how it was like pitched to me anyway. But I will say, trigger warning. I didn't know about the triggers before I picked it up, so I definitely want to warn you, trigger warning for domestic violence, for SA, for extreme jealousy. Like, be aware of those things if you're sensitive to them before heading into this book, because I have PTSD that involves some of those things, and I didn't know about them being in here, and it was triggering, I will admit. So be warned. Now, I want to talk about this book very deeply and personally because of my PTSD triggers. Specifically, this book had quite an impact on me, and I can't talk about the impact without spoiling things. So, spoiler alert, and just be aware that I am going to be talking about personal things as well, and I just really can't separate my personal life from my reading of this because of my PTSD and the triggers that it, like the emotions that it brought up in me. It's all a twisted knot. So just know though that I recommend this book if you think you can handle those triggers. I think it was very readable. I flew through it. The writing style, you just kind of fall into it, and like, I just enjoyed it. Although enjoyed does feel like the wrong word. Again, spoiler alert, because I'm about to spoil parts of the plot. But so when Lily is with Ryle, like, you get like flashbacks of her with Atlas, like their journal entries that she wrote when she was a kid, and comparing those relationships, her and Atlas, like, I was invested. I liked Atlas. They had a friendship. He falls for her, she falls for him over time, and it's this deep bond, and I was there for it. Like, that I was Team Atlas all the way. Now, Ryle, when he came on the scene, like, their relationship was very lustful, like, and nothing wrong with that, but like, to build a whole relationship based on very few details and just lust, I was not invested in Ryle from the get-go. I just felt like he was kind of self-centered, and he wanted what he wanted, and he wasn't used to not getting what he wanted. And not to say he was like a bad person, because like their banter was really good and he was so sweet to her, but like, it was very, very lustful and felt very shallow to me. So I was Team Atlas from the beginning. Eventually, you know, Ryle, he's got some problems, and those problems emerge, and he is somewhat abusive. Not somewhat, he is abusive to Lily. And Lily grew up in an abusive household, so like it's very triggering for her. She always said if someone did this to her, she would leave. She wouldn't be like her mom and she wouldn't stay. And then what does she do? She stays, right? Like they play off that Ryle has trauma from his past, and that's why like he blacks out, he doesn't remember, he doesn't mean to do these things, which may be true. But at some point, as an adult, you need to take responsibility. You need to get help. You need to maybe get on medication if you have to. Like you can't let your past trauma be your excuse for hurting people. Like, I don't really like how Lily just kind of like forgives him and everyone just kind of sweeps it under the rug. But maybe that's very realistic. I was never in a physically abusive situation, but I do have PTSD from my past marriage. I'm not going to go deep into my PTSD here, but the emotions and stuff that Lily felt because of her relationship with Ryle, the fear, the walking on eggshells, like I felt that in my past marriage, and like it was very triggering. Some of the scenes in here, the jealousy, the extreme jealousy of Ryle, like very, very triggering for my PTSD. And sometimes I did have to put the book down and then pick it back up in a little while once like I got a grip on myself. But I feel like Colleen Hoover does a really good job of explaining these situations and these emotions realistically, because like based on experience, like you do make excuses for people, and Lily does that. She makes excuses. She sometimes even like blames herself, and then she gets mad at herself like, no, wait, no, I shouldn't blame myself, but then she still does anyway. And that's so realistic to me. She justifies things, she lies to people, like I did those same things, so it was super realistic to me. There was a line that I wanted to point out. It says, "All humans make mistakes. What determines a person's character aren't the mistakes we make. It's how we take those mistakes and turn them into lessons rather than excuses." And Lily uses that line to kind of like justify why she's taking Ryle back, why she doesn't leave, like, oh, he's going to change, he's going to learn from it, but he doesn't. And yes, it is true that all humans make mistakes, and some people can learn and grow, and the hope is that people learn and grow, but they have to want it. They have to put in the effort. They have to take ownership over their actions, regardless of whatever trauma is contributing to that situation. Like, you can't just like write it off as a mistake, in my opinion. But I feel like that kind of reaction is very realistic because I did it. Other people in the world, I'm sure, do this. Like, we just want to hope that it gets better. Most times it doesn't. And now Lily does end up marrying Ryle, and I was like screaming at her the whole time not to do it. But she does marry him. And then, he hurts her again. And then they get divorced. And you know what? Like, they have such a short marriage. And that's kind of like how my marriage was. It was very short, very painful kind of marriage. Mine wasn't physically painful, but emotionally, mentally. And so, like, the PTSD and the similarities, like, from Lily to my situation, like, they were very clear to me as I read this. And there's a time where like Lily is journaling her feelings, and she had stopped journaling for a while, and she's like telling her journal that like she's sorry that she took a break, but like she just had to take a break from journaling because the line is, "And in order to get over that hurt, you have to sever all the extensions that keep you tethered to that pain. You were an extension of my pain." So I guess that's what I was doing. I was just trying to save myself a little bit of agony. And she used to journal a lot when she was with Atlas, and when they broke up, she stopped. So like she's actually referring to Atlas there, like the pain of losing Atlas. and her relationship with him, but it's very relatable. Like when I left my marriage and filed for divorce, like I cut off a lot of people that had nothing to do with it, but it's just like that. Like they were an extension of that pain. They were related or friends with my now ex-husband, and I just couldn't maintain those relationships. It was easier and better for my mental health to just sever those ties completely, even though certain people didn't necessarily do anything. And just this whole this analogy and this comparison went on for me. At this point, she hasn't divorced Ryle or anything, but she is thinking about it. She's left him, but she talks about like how this step back has caused her to like appreciate things in others. And she says, I think that's one of the biggest signs a person has matured, knowing how to appreciate things that matter to others, even if they don't matter very much to you. And when I was going through my divorce, like I felt that in my bones, like I was rediscovering who I was. And because of doing that and because of knowing who I am as a person, I was able to like appreciate other people's individuality more and what makes them tick, even if it's not something that like I might value or hold to the same like extent, but like I connected with that. Lily also talks about how when she left Ryle, she says it feels like they've died, which I felt that kind of grief. Like you do grieve the relationship because it may not be the person that has died, but that relationship is dead. It's not coming back. It is a form of grief. And I feel like Colleen Hoover captures that feeling so well. The hatred like that you feel towards the other person. Like Lily hates Ryle. And I felt that when I was going through my divorce. The hatred, the anger, those emotions, they're such a roller coaster. And so these scenes, these descriptions were very personal to me, and like I don't like to think about that point in my life. I was very depressed, and so like this bringing those emotions back in such a way that was so real to me was triggering. And to make matters worse, Lily finds out that she's pregnant, and when I was going through my horrible marriage, I got pregnant and gave birth, had a baby, then filed for divorce. And that's basically exactly what happens to Lily. She's going through this horrible marriage. She is pregnant. She has the baby. And we both had girls. And then she files for divorce at the end of the book. And so like the similarities of that was also extremely real and painful. The feeling of like, I'm pregnant, so I should be happy, but my life and my marriage is falling apart, and this is awful, and I'm depressed, and I can't talk to anybody about it. And like Lily feels that, I felt that. It was bringing up a lot of old emotions in me, a lot of anger and hurt that I experienced in real life, and it was portrayed very accurately on the page. And to know that like you have two options when you want to give your baby the world, and Lily wants that, and she's like, I have two options. I can stay in an abusive, horrible marriage, or I can leave and then my child has to be raised in a broken home. And I had those same options. I could stay in a horrible marriage, or I could leave. And as someone that grew up with divorced parents, like I never wanted that for my kids. And so the options are not appealing at all. And that is captured so well by Colleen Hoover. Like I felt like I was reading my own story at some points. And to have to make that decision to divorce somebody and split up your home, and to know that you're going to have to raise your child co-parenting, have them go back and forth, that is such a hard choice to make as a parent. Like I felt for Lily because I've done it myself. Now, there is one other thing I had issue with. Like I had issue with like how they kind of sweep Ryle's issues under the rug, like, and blame it on trauma. Like he needs to take ownership over his issues. I get that like things happened to him when he was younger, but he can't just like use that as his excuse. Like he needs to get some help. My other issue was with how like with Lily's reasoning for getting divorced. She says that she is doing it it felt like more for Ryle's sake than her own sake. Like she wanted her baby, Emmy, to be able to grow up and have a good relationship with her dad, which is commendable. But to me, it feels like she's just doing it and sacrificing her own self, like to give Ryle a good relationship with their daughter. But I hope I'm explaining that well. But like to me, like it would be much stronger and more relatable to me because I got divorced, and I think Lily should get divorced to show their baby what a strong woman is and that you know your value. Like Lily should know her value and want her baby to know her value and to know I'm not going to put up with this kind of treatment by someone who is supposed to love you, right? Ryle is supposed to love Lily, so how could he do that to her? And like, if Lily left him for those reasons, I think it would be stronger. But she kind of says that she left him because she wants him to have a good relationship with her daughter and doesn't want her daughter to see him be those bad versions of himself. And I just didn't quite like that messaging. I would have liked it better if Lily said, I'm leaving because I deserve better and my daughter deserves better. And that's why I got divorced. So like I am biased. So I guess take that with a grain of salt, but I didn't like the reasons given for why she was getting divorced. Now, at the end of the book, you can assume she's going to end up with Atlas. It kind of leaves you with them meeting again, and there's hints that they, want to be together, and you can imagine they're going to go off and be together. And this book, as far as I know, my understanding of it was there was never supposed to be a sequel to this book. So that was it. And I feel like it ends very hopeful, and you can imagine them going off and being together, and all this horribleness that Lily went through will be worth it in the end, and her daughter Emmy's gonna get a good stepdad. Like you can imagine those things, and maybe it doesn't work out. But that's kind of where it leaves you, just kind of with this hope and this vision for the future, and it's gonna be good. And I felt like that ending was satisfying. It was good. I did not need a sequel. However, there is a sequel, and I have started reading It Starts With Us. And so I will be reviewing this shortly. We'll see if I feel like it adds to the story or not. I'm too soon into it to decide. But I was satisfied with the ending of It Ends With Us. So I really hope that this just extends it. Like I do want Lily and Atlas to end up together. So I hope that's what happens in here. I want to see their relationship. I care about these characters, but I hope this book doesn't fall flat because this book hit me so strongly. So I don't know what to expect, but we'll find out. We'll find out, won't we? All right, that is all I have for you guys today. I would love for you to drop down in the comments and chat with me about It Ends With Us. It is about breaking abusive cycles, these abusive cycles end with us. And I think that's a beautiful message. Maybe it wasn't always portrayed quite the way I had hoped, but it was a very realistic and real and emotional ride for me. So drop down in the comments and we can chat more there about the book. I will talk to you next Monday. I hope you have a great week. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for talking books with me.